The role of the President's State of the Union Address. Good afternoon, everyone. Today we turn our attention to one of the most recognizable rituals in American political life, the President's State of the Union Address. This annual speech is more than just a tradition. It is a constitutional duty, a political stage, and a carefully orchestrated moment in the theater of American democracy. Let's begin at the source, the United States Constitution. Article 2, Section 3 provides that the President shall from time to time give to the Congress information of the State of the Union and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. In other words, the framers expected the President to report to Congress on how the nation was doing and to suggest legislative priorities. When this requirement was written in 1787, it wasn't intended to be a public spectacle. The early presidents treated it much more like a formal report to Congress than the primetime televised event we see today. In fact, George Washington delivered the very first State of the Union address on January 8, 1790 in New York City, which was then the capital. Washington gave it in person before a joint session of Congress. It was a relatively brief speech, setting a precedent for in-person delivery. His successor, John Adams, followed the same practice. But beginning with Thomas Jefferson in 1801, the format changed. Jefferson disliked the pomp and ceremony of appearing before Congress to deliver a speech. He felt it was too reminiscent of the monarch's speech from the throne in Britain. Instead, he sent a written report to Congress, which clerks read aloud. This written tradition lasted for over a century, until Woodrow Wilson revived the in-person delivery in 1913. Wilson believed that the presidency should have a more direct connection to both Congress and the public, and the live address gave him that opportunity. From Wilson onward, most presidents returned to delivering the address in person, though there were still exceptions. It was Calvin Coolidge who gave the first State of the Union broadcast on radio in 1923. And in 1947, Harry Truman delivered the first televised State of the Union, bringing the event directly into living rooms across America. This was a major turning point. Television transformed the address from a congressional formality into a national event with millions of viewers. The modern State of the Union, as we know it today, really began taking shape in the post-World War II era. Presidents started using it not only to inform Congress, but also to speak directly to the American people, framing the year's political agenda and rallying public opinion in their favor. It became an important tool for what political scientists call the bully pulpit, the president's unique ability to use public attention to influence political outcomes. So, when does it occur? Traditionally, the State of the Union is delivered once a year, usually in late January or early February. The exact date is not fixed by law, but is coordinated between the president and congressional leaders. In the president's first year in office, this speech is often referred to as an address to a joint session of Congress, rather than a State of the Union, since the president has not yet served a full year. The content of the modern address typically includes three main elements: review of the past year, assessing economic performance, national security, foreign policy, and domestic achievements, legislative proposals, laying out the president's agenda for the year ahead, often with specific bills or policy initiatives, appeals to unity and national purpose, attempting to frame political priorities as serving the whole country rather than just one party. Beyond policy, the State of the Union has taken on a strong symbolic role. It is one of the few times the three branches of government, executive, legislative, and judicial, come together in the same room. It is also highly choreographed. The arrival of the president, the greeting by the Speaker of the House, the applause lines, and the camera shots of guests in the gallery are all carefully planned to send political messages. Finally, the State of the Union functions as both a governing and a campaigning tool. In an age of mass media, presidents use the address to connect directly with voters, build momentum for their policies, and shape the political conversation. Sometimes moments from these speeches, a memorable phrase, a passionate call to action, or the introduction of a heroic citizen in the audience, can dominate headlines for days. In summary, what began in 1790 as a simple constitutional duty has evolved into one of the most important political events of the year. The State of the Union is part constitutional report, part legislative agenda, and part national performance. It is a reminder that while the presidency is an office bound by law, it is also an institution shaped by communication, symbolism, and the power of public persuasion.